Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore.
Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore. I am your host, Tom Gauker, and in this episode, we chat with Tomas Fujiwara. He is a masterful drummer who worked with John Zorn, Mary Halverson, and is the leader of the Tomas Fujiwara Trio, Double Triple, and he's 1/3 member of Thumbscrew. Thumbscrew is Tomas Fujiwara in drums, Michael Formanek in double bass, and Mary Halverson on guitar. Never Is Enough is their new recording. It will be released to the public on February 26, 2021. In this episode, we will chat with Toma and we will review the tracks from the album. And I will have a come to Jesus moment where I have to admit that I have a Mary Halverson fan crush. It's a little embarrassing, but there's nothing I can do about it. Before we get into the interview, let's listen to Camp Easy. Tomas Fujiwara, welcome to Something Came from Baltimore.
Thanks for having me.
Great, thank you. Hey, how are you doing in New York with this COVID? Are you actively working, or did you take a break, or what happened to you during this time period?
Well, I would say both. Certain things are, on hold or not at live performance opportunities. I've certainly kept busy practicing, writing, working on the later stages of a few albums. I mean, during this period, Thumbscrew released an album of Braxton pieces. We have this upcoming album that will be out next month. Recording of John Zorn's Bagatelles with the Mary Halverson Quartet, mixing a new triple double album. So I've been working on that stuff, and then have also done some live stream performances. So kind of the answer to your question is kind of both. We missed, performing for a live audience, found ways to still come together in certain ways and play music, and hopefully get that music heard and seen by people that are interested.
John Zorn, how is it like working with him? And I guess you have more of a connection with him. You've worked with him in the past.
Yeah, he wrote, I think it's over 300 compositions that he called the Bagatelles. And then he got quite a number of ensembles to, first perform them in these Bagatelle marathons that were happening, where it was happening at various venues, where sometimes dozens of bands would perform, anywhere from solos to quintets, all different types of instrumentation and types of styles and genres. And then he had some of the ensembles record the Bagatelles that they had been performing. And so the first box set, I believe, just came out this month. And so this group, the Mary Halverson Quartet, that has been playing these Bagatelles for a few years now, recorded some pieces. I love working with him. A few things. I mean, I love the music. Obviously, that's the most important. I just really appreciate his enthusiasm and his positivity and his communication. I appreciate that he's very clear about what he wants. It's really fun to work with him because, there's a great balance between kind of the individual agency of each of the players as, you know, interpreters of the music and as improvisers, and also him as the composer and kind of the leader of all these groups that are performing the bagatelle. So it's been great. I've really loved it.
I need you to be my therapist at this point. I wanted you to bring up John Zorn first before I talk into the project. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from here. Before I had this interview, I actually talked to friends about it, and they understand what I'm saying. I hooked into your work with Code Girl. That's where I started. When I look at Mary Halverson, I look at her as like a pure artist. And this is my mind, so it might not be in the real world. But when we categorize people like John Cage, John Zorn, Philip Glass, and even Anthony Braxton, I put them on a pedestal where I don't look at them as real people, but I look at their life as art. Like, oh my God, she's at the food court. She's making art. Or she's sitting down eating a cheeseburger. Oh my God, that's art. There's a word for this. And that was the thing, is like, what is the word where someone, it's not a deity, it's not a sycophant. There's a word where you look at someone as that they're creating art of all time. and they're not humanized. Like, I'd be freaked out to ask John Zorn a question. I just want to know, like, how does he live? How does he live on this earth? And I know that you see them as people, but this is a fan thing that I have, and I have no idea. Is this a psycho fan? What is this word?
I won't touch that exact question of what that is, but I think I understand at least part of what you're saying. I think, you know, for me, the humanity of these, you know, artists and people that you talk about is, I can't separate the two. You know, my interaction with them as people contributes to their greatness as artists. You know, to me, it doesn't happen kind of separate from getting a burger at the food court.
You're interwoven into their lifestyle. So the demystification, I mean, who they are has dissipated. Like, you worked with Mary forever, and
yeah.
She's your friend. But to me, she's like, oh my God, like everything that she does, what she wears, how she strums her guitar, it's art.
Well, I would agree with that. Yeah, I can interact on a very kind of human and everyday existence with these people, and also admire what they do, or be a fan, or I know what you mean by the feeling, but it's yeah, to me, it's all part of the same thing.
I think what you're saying is, I'm in the mix. I'm on the inside. I don't see you as, you know, I don't see it your way, because I'm a part of the team. I'm a player. Now, let me ask you, if when you go to concerts, do you look out in the audience and do you see people staring at her like, oh my God, what's she doing now? Like, what's she doing now? I mean, do you feel that glow in their face, that they look at her more of that admiration also?
Yeah, I mean, you know, people have their super fans, so there's definitely, you know, having played with her so much over the years and toured all over the place, you know, there's always those super fans where it's, you know, a little bit outside just the music, and whether it's like, oh, what's that pedal, and how do you know, whether it's the gear freaks or
yeah,
you know, or the super fans. Sure, a number of people that I play with, you can kind of see that.
I would have a tough time interviewing Philip Glass. I would love to. What comes out of his mind and the music that's being created is something that I get to listen to, but I would have never thought to make. So it's outside the realm of or what I've used to. So it's a challenge, and that challenge is very intense. And then it becomes more than just listening to music. It's a challenge of accepting the music and decoding what feels good, and maybe what they're trying to get across, or how does it feel to me. Like, I've listened to some of the songs on this album, and I can tell you what they mean to me, and obviously they're different than what they actually are. It feels to me that this type of music is more of a roller coaster, more interesting, because I get to use my full brain to kind of dissect what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the music probably asks the listener to be a little more involved and a little more engaged. You know, it's not background music, and it's not you know, just kind of incidental music to not pay attention to. We're very engaged in making it. We're very engaged with the listener when we present it. There's a certain relationship with the listener, and I guess kind of an asking of an engaged listen, not to love everything or think that everything's the best thing ever, but to kind of engage with it, allow for the kind of totality of the experience beyond just, I like this, I don't like this, that's cool, that's weird. And I know for myself, I know if I'm writing music, if I'm writing a composition, yeah, I know what it's about, but I'm not trying to overly impress upon the listener to hear it my way or see it my way. I want them to, absorb it, but filter it through their own personal experiences and their own, emotions. And I think, kind of getting back to your early point with some of these artists that we really admire, I think a big part of it is they found a very creative way to tap into their personal stories and their personal outlook on things, their personal connection to the world around them, and have found this really, and a lot of times, very pure way to kind of put that out there in this case, in music.
I think going forward, like for a week, you should stare, like, Mary inside and out, you've known her for years, but you should stare at her like I would, and say, oh my God, you're eating that cheeseburger like it's art, or you're swiping your brow like it's, like, make her nervous. really scare her.
Jeez. Yeah, probably. I definitely won't be doing that, but
yeah, it would be funny. Your therapy session is over. Thank you very much. Let's get into this album.
Talk about billing.
Some of the songs that we're going to go through, the Heart Drop, in my opinion, it would be the most commercial of those songs. All these songs like start and take off, and I think this is the only one on the album where it starts and ends at the same place. It kind of like a Sleepy Hollow of WXPN, where it would be a great morning piece.
Mary Halverson wrote that one. It's a beautiful ballad with some cool, obviously a great melody and some cool, subtle harmonic and rhythmic shifts, and we do improvise it on it in somewhat of one of the jazz traditions, over the form. So yeah, that makes sense in terms of quote unquote standard jazz form. We kind of interpret it in very much that way. In terms of the composition, yeah, it really feels like her version of a great jazz standard, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Yeah, we are going to listen to a sample of that song. The next song is Sequel to Sadness. I just closed my eyes and I felt that all you needed was Dave Thomas from Pro Ubu to do vocals on top of this, and you got yourself a great song.
Yeah, it's another one that Mary wrote. Sometimes people have asked if we write the music together, what the process is. We really show up to rehearse, or in this case to this residency, with the compositions pretty much written. I should say 99% written. And so, now we've been a band for 10 years, not a lot needs to be said. So we bring in the music and we just play through. We play through the written material. Sometimes we ask a couple, questions of clarity from whoever composed the piece. If there's something that is working really well that the composer wants to make sure we kind of keep arrangement wise, we might say that, or if something that's not quite working. But for the most part, we just play it. We play it, and in terms of the improvising, they might be, over a pretty closed form like Heart Drop, or a little more open or totally open, with kind of material to transition back to other sections. And then we just let it fly. And Sequel to Sadness is one of those where we got the music and we, played it. We just kind of played it every day and during the residency, and then recorded it. And it's another one that's, it's really fun to play. And with the improvising, kind of goes to different places depending on the day. And that's kind of, as Thumbscrew, that's something that we love to do.
Never Is Enough is the name of the album. It's also a song. There may be more to the words Never Is Enough, but in my opinion, this is a smoking rock song where it starts to build up and it starts to feel very almost metal.
Yeah, especially in that last part. This one Michael Formanek wrote. This is the first album that he played electric bass on. So that adds another, sonic dimension to the group. And so I'm sure that he wrote this very much thinking about the electric in the context of Thumbscrew and kind of, the sound we've developed over the years. And in terms of the title, you'd have to ask him. But again, something that we've been discussing, I like that everyone can kind of, it's a very evocative title and you can go a lot of places with it. So it's, I'm sure he knows specifically what he was thinking about and inspired by to come up with that title. But I also like the fact that it's open-ended enough that it can mean different things to different people. Yeah, it does kind of have mysterious build that goes in many different places before this big explosion, right towards the end. Which is cool. It has a really cool shape to it, the way he wrote it, and at the same time the shape can very much change from performance to performance.
emojis have consequence in the last 4 minutes. You have a really awesome drum solo in there, and that's what I want to focus on. I love the title also.
Yep.
Do they have consequences? Does emojis have consequences?
First of all, that's another Michael Formanek tune, so he would have to, clarify if he wanted to the exact meaning for it. But again, we can all kind of take it how we want to take it. I would agree that they have consequences. I mean, they're so used, I might argue overused at this point, in the place of typed text language, much less actually speaking to people. Seems like there's layers and layers of do's and don'ts when it comes to emojis. So I think they do have consequences.
We're going to end the music samples with Scams Likely. And at the end of the track, I wrote down, it's like a psychotic break. It just seems like it was really intense.
Again, another one that Michael Formanek wrote, thinking about the electric in the context of this group. And, I think with this one, there's so many kind of wide open spaces to really shape the mood, and fun to work on and try any number of things, and kind of, I don't know, I'm not even going to name it, but to create the vibe that you hear and that, takes you wherever it takes you.
The band is called Thumbscrew. The album is called Never's Enough. It has a release date of February 26, 2021, and it's on the Cuneiform Records, which is actually based in Maryland. It's in Silver Springs. Thank you very much for talking to me today on Something Came from Baltimore.
Thanks for having me.
Something came from Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore.
Something Came from Baltimore, the podcast, is now Something Came from Baltimore, the radio show. Check us out every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we chat with artists like Go-Go Penguin, Paula Cole, Al DeMola, and Kat Edmondson. Be a part of that Be More music scene, now exclusively on thebox.com. If you're here, you're far from square.